let me go to a boarding school. So I wanted to go to a cadet college, and they never let me go there as well. And then what happened was that, you know, every now and then I would go to my mom and be like, hey, you know what, I'm going in the street to play cricket with friends. And she'd be like, no. Every time I would ask for something, she would be like, no.
Because you were the only son.
Yeah. So I was the sort of kid who would actually ask for an explanation, and then she wouldn't give me any explanation or logic. So I would like, okay, you know, मैं गली में cricket खेलने जा रहा हूँ, नहीं जाना तुमने. Mom, please come on, it's playtime. बस मैंने कह दिया ना. You know, this मैंने कह दिया notion was never understood by me. I was like, okay, tell me what is the reason which is making you stop me from going outside and play cricket. बस मैंने कह दिया ना. You know, this is something which I never got.
It's a Pakistani thing.
Yeah, but this is something which I never understood. And these days, you actually have to give logic to the kids to make them understand, and I think it's beautiful.
Absolutely. Kids are really, really smart. I mean, we would take no as an answer and we would be okay with it.
Yeah.
Now they don't. But Shahzad, this also reminds me of one of the times, since you spoke about going out and playing cricket, I was in my mom's village, and well, there's this uncle. He is sort of related to my mom in a way. You know how Pakistani families are huge, huge, huge. 7 degrees of my, you know, relations. So, well, he had a very bad coughing condition. And of course, since we were kids, we were so curious and everything, and we kept asking what he had. And my mom would say, it's TB, he has a disease, we wouldn't know. And she probably, that was all she told me, us. And, you know, ever since then, even if we saw anyone coughing that bad, we would say, oh, he has TB. And it was insensitive of us, of course, because we were not well informed.
Exactly.
This is one of the aspects of diseases, or specifically, let's say, tuberculosis, I want to talk about today. While awareness, I think sensitizing is something so important, Shahzad, because the families who are actually going through the particular disease, they don't want to hear you say insensitive things or ignorant things. So even if you're ill-informed, just try not to make rude comments about something that you don't know about, and try to be welcoming and compassionate probably towards someone who is suffering from this. And now let's pick up on tuberculosis itself, Shahzad. Today happens to be 24th of March, and we are observing International Tuberculosis Day along with so many other member states of the UN today.
Exactly, and I will give you a brief background as well. But before moving on towards the brief background, since you mentioned that, you know, there was this uncle of yours, you know, who was coughing as well. And not just that, I've witnessed it with my own eyes as well, that, you know, there was this lady who actually took his son's rishta, you know, to another house. And then, you know, while having a conversation, she told them that, you know, while he was growing up, he had tuberculosis, but he recovered 100% and whatnot. And they refused to actually give them a rishta as well. So this is very sad. And I think that there's a lot of awareness which needs to be spread, even though that, you know, this is a disease which you can be cured of 100%, alhamdulillah. But not just that, I think getting into the background, it was back in 1882 on the 24th of March, the same day, when Dr. Robert actually found the bacterium as well. And that was the time when we realized that, okay, you know, that things can get better. Because other than that, tuberculosis, Shiza, was one of the most fatal diseases as well. And people would succumb to this disease and die. And almost 4,000 people would die every year, tuberculosis. And since 2000 onwards, more than, I think you know the figure too, 63 million people have been saved.
Definitely. I think this was only since 2000 onward that there was it was one of the missions of course, all the UN member states as well to eradicate it. Unfortunately, Shahzad, Pakistan is one of those countries which is majorly hit by this epidemic, I want to say as well. So many millions of lives actually are definitely altered by it, affected by it, and then sometimes even, well, given up to it as well. And speaking, so sorry Shahzad, I'm cutting you as well, but you know, since you spoke about tuberculosis and its persistence for so many years as well, I want to really learn if it has something to do with the area you live in or the age group you're in. You know, so many questions, and I have even we've been getting questions from some of our viewers as well that they want to ask the doctors too. So we'll do that. But the good thing is, the theme for this year is the clock is ticking, and I think this theme actually sits well for so many scenarios that we are going through since last year as a global community, right? Of course, there's a pandemic, then there's this particular epidemic, and this being the second most common disease, bacterial disease actually, which is the cause of death. Can you believe that?
Exactly, that's true, Shiza. And you know, this is very sad, you know, unfortunately, that over in Pakistan, you know, we are amongst those two countries where polio still exists. So I think that one way or the other, within the sector of healthcare, we need to do a lot of work. You know, we need to bring together people, we need to come together with the same agenda. You know, just a few days ago, you remember that we had doctors from Turkey and Pakistan who were joining hands as well. I think we need such collaborations to make sure that the standards of medicine over here in Pakistan kind of goes up as well. Everybody knows that we have good doctors. Pakistan is home to good doctors and home to producing good doctors. But the healthcare system, one way or the other, imagine that, you know, in 2021, we're still combating polio, we're still talking about tuberculosis, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot which needs to be done, but without any further ado, I think let's get a better understanding of what tuberculosis is, and then let's ask about the treatments available, you know, early diagnosis. I think these things will help everybody who's out there. And please make sure, if even if somebody's coughing too loud or too hard, don't tell them that they might have tuberculosis. Let them go figure out themselves as well. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we are lucky that we have been, on this very important day, we have been joined by public health specialist. He happens to be Dr. Ghulam Nabi Qazi Sahab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Islam, and good morning to you.
Sir, thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you.
No, it's nice of you to have us.
It's our pleasure.
Likewise, brilliant, brilliant. I like the amazing comment you've just made. You know, I like such comments, but alongside Dr. Ghulam Nabi, we're lucky that we've actually been joined by another public health expert, and she happens to be Kinza Iman. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us on the show.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you. But there's one question on a very lighter note. You know, it feels like, you know, when usually I sleep at night, you know, I wrap something around me and, you know, my face is not really visible. And I feel a little sleepy, and that's the time when I go to sleep. Are you sleepy?
No, I stay awake with this thing.
Well, that's
I
wonderful.
sleep the other way.
Yeah, and I mentioned before that, you know, no offense, on a very lighter note. Okay, so last but not the least, ladies and gentlemen, we have a development expert with us as well, who's wearing a wonderful jacket and he looks amazing. He is Dr. Azhar Karam Shah Sahab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Walaikum assalam. Good morning.
How are you, sir? Thank you very
fine,
much for joining us.
I'm perfect.
Wonderful to have you. So let's get the conversation started with Dr. Ghulam. So, sir, you really need to tell me, my co-host, my entire team, and the audiences in 46 different countries what tuberculosis is, and what causes tuberculosis, and where is Pakistan in terms of this infectious disease.
Good. That's quite a tall order, but you made my life easy by mentioning a lot of things.
Okay.
Now, when Dr. Robert Koch identified Mycobacterium tuberculosis in 1882, that's like 139 years ago.
Yeah.
He could not have imagined that today in 2021, TB will still be the largest killer in infectious diseases,
Largest killer in infectious diseases.
killing 4,000 people per day
Wow.
and affecting 10 million new cases every year. And in Pakistan, we have not been too lucky. We are number 5th on the high burden list of
We're number
22.
5th.
Number 5 on the list of high burden countries,
Okay.
which means we're getting about 600,000 people, new cases every year, which add to the prevalent pool, and the people go on spreading infection. Now, what is happening is that
So can you please
I
explain
beg your
to us,
pardon, sorry.
no problem at all. If you can kindly explain to us the biological science behind how the bacterium might affect your body and why it causes that disease.
yeah, essentially it affects the lungs,
Okay.
but it could affect any part of the body.
Oh, okay.
But the disease which is infectious is the one which affects the lungs.
Okay.
So we pay more importance to that, although childhood TB and other TB, extrapulmonary TBs,
Right.
they're also very important for TB control.
Okay.
And now that we have had international commitments and agreements, and
Yes.
we are pledged to eliminate TB by 2030 or 2035. Let me just say 2030 right now, because it's still 9 years
Yeah.
away, and we could do it. And the point is, we are not in good shape, because the program started about 20 years ago, in
21 years.
2000, 2001.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For one first decade, we set up DOTS facilities, that's directly observed treatment, short course at that time.
Okay.
And we improved the coverage across the country, all over Pakistan,
Yeah.
by 2005. After that, we steadily improved and improved and improved till 2010 or 11.
Yeah.
And then we sort of plateaued off
Okay.
in terms of case finding, in terms of identifying new cases.
Okay.
And then in the last 2 years, we
But that
actually...
doesn't mean there were no new cases, right? There were still new
The
cases.
cases were there,
Okay.
but they were not identified,
Okay,
which
okay.
is very risky because if you don't treat the cases, they will be infecting others,
Yeah.
and we will not know who they are.
Okay.
And they'll be in the communities, and they'll be infecting about 10 to 15 others over the course of 10 years.
Okay.
So our main priority is always to identify cases
Okay.
and treat them and cure them.
Brilliant.
And
Dr.
the course is around, on average, 6 months.
Okay, the treatment course you're talking
So
about.
there's no need for stigma.
Yeah, of
It
course,
is
of course.
highly curable in the majority of cases. And those who are resistant to first-line drugs, even now the short course has been come down to 9 to 11 months.
Yeah.
So really we're in good shape over there.
Okay.
The problem is we're not finding enough cases.
Exactly. So what, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Saab is trying to say is that, that it's really hard to figure out, that where all those people are who've actually been infected by tuberculosis as well. But let me move on to Kinza over here because, there is a stigma. Even if Dr. Saab says that, we really do not need to be stigmatized with this kind of conversation, I think that, there is stigma because it is an infectious disease. The person needs to be by himself. He
Right.
cannot share the, cutlery or all of those things which he uses by himself as well. So we really need to put a check on that as well, whether is that true or not, or do we really need to wear a mask and can we protect ourselves if you're looking after somebody who's actually got tuberculosis, because this is something which we have seen during the pandemic.
Yeah.
That, you wear a mask and that you are safe and that the infectious disease is not going to get to you. So let us know that, why is it stigmatized in the first place? And then number two, that, okay, God forbid, if you have somebody who's got tuberculosis at home and you are to look after them, what should you do?
So if we talk about in my assumption, for now, we are isolating the people who are getting COVID.
Yeah.
Years back, because people used to die because there wasn't any treatment,
Yeah.
so the people with TB were actually isolated in the sanatoriums.
Okay.
The same scenario that if TB comes in one house, everyone from that house dies.
Yeah.
That particular primitive thought is actually building up till date.
Yeah.
Which is not true?
Which is not true.
Okay.
Which obviously not true.
Okay.
Like initially the bacteria is infectious.
Okay.
It can be communicated from one person to another. But while you're taking treatment, after I think after a month or so,
Yeah.
it's not infectious anymore.
Got it. Okay.
So in the initial month, the person needs to wear a mask, but there is no need for isolating
The
them.
person who's got tuberculosis needs to wear a
Needs
mask.
to wear masks
Yeah.
for the initial month of his treatment.
Okay.
The treatment needs to be continued. The
Okay.
treatment cannot be stopped for even a single day.
Yeah,
It
true.
has to be taken continuously for 6 months for normal tuberculosis. But there is no need for stigmatizing the persons.
Of
And
course.
now we have a preventive therapy available. It's called IPT. It's available, and the person under 5-year-old in that particular house are actually recommended to be placed on the prevention therapy.
Okay.
And there is no need for stigmatizing it anymore. We hear stories about women being stigmatized, even the relationships being broken down because of contacting the TB.
Yeah.
But we need to, even in the current times of COVID, we don't need to kind of start hating somebody for having the
Yeah,
disease.
Of course.
And tuberculosis is 100% curable at the moment.
But also, Kenza, how is it transferable? Is it through droplets? Is it airborne? Anything?
It's transmitted in the same way
As COVID is?
but it's not as contagious as
Got it.
COVID.
Got it.
And then we know the stains now and
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
because of the advancement in diagnosis and everything. So it's not requiring stigmatization. Yeah, if a person in your house has TB, it's good if you go for the like the other households get the prevention therapy.
That's great.
And,
Makes sense.
and that's fabulous as well. But let me move on to Azhar Saab over here very quickly because, I think it's for everybody out there, since we are raising awareness about this disease itself, I think what we really need to do is we need to talk about how can somebody self-diagnose that, God forbid, I might have tuberculosis. I think that's something which we need to talk about. So what are the early symptoms anyone would feel, which will differentiate from a normal cough to a TB cough?
Thank you. Usually, as per WHO criteria, the person who have cough more than 2 weeks is a presumptive TB case.
Okay.
You have to go and
even
you have
if you're a smoker, non-smoker,
if you're a
things like
smoker,
that.
non-smoker. And nowadays, there are a lot of technology development in all areas. Same is the case with in TB diagnosis. Few years back, there were only simple X-rays. The big X-rays you were supposed to go to the hospital and have
the lungs X-ray?
Lungs X-ray. But nowadays, in 2021, we have digital small X-ray, Fuji X-rays, which is handheld, portable. You can take it anywhere with artificial intelligence. You don't even need a doctor to diagnose.
What do we mean by artificial intelligence in X-rays?
Yes, artificial intelligence means it's an artificial with computer setup. Like you will.
So you do my X-ray. God forbid, if I have tuberculosis, the computer is going to detect it itself.
Yes, it's
okay, tuberculosis.
There's a scoring.
Can you rely on that computer? Because otherwise, I'll have to go through an entire course in 6 months.
This is the pilot. We are doing it.
Okay, this is the pilot. Okay.
Yeah,
so
first time in
not
Pakistan.
That trustworthy as of now.
First time in Pakistan.
Okay,
It was never before in Pakistan.
Right.
We are like pilot project. We are testing it.
Yes.
And same people used to go to the microscopy for sputum testing because that is the final test which you do for TB.
Okay.
Otherwise, no test is authentic.
Okay.
Except then your sputum.
Okay.
For tuberculosis.
Okay.
Some doctor can diagnose TB by seeing your X-ray if you are not sputum producing, but if the TB patient is producing sputum, you have to go and you have to test it on the gene expert machine, which is very authentic, rather than going to the sputum.
Other than the artificial intelligence.
Well, that is brilliant, but
Is there something to share? Yeah.
Yes, please.
So the artificial intelligence thing is also not that unreliable.
Okay.
What's happening is there are a lot of the advanced solutions coming up, which are giving comprehensive assessment of the lungs, whether you have pneumothorax, whether you have atelectasis, any kind of disease that is happening that earlier used to like kind of go to the huge genetic X-rays, and then the radiologist used to take notes of that and then mark that.
Go to a pulmonologist, probably get them checked.
Yeah, and then what is happening now is there's certain artificial intelligence softwares available which you run the X-ray, which directly runs into the system and provide you a comprehensive report on in between 10 to 21 indicators. That provides you a comprehensive assessment of your lungs, and the diagnostic accuracy of the X-rays and the artificial intelligence softwares is reaching up to 98% these days.
Okay, that's good. But it's really good to hear about these technologies coming in and now easier testing, probably easier results, but it's still 2021. And like Dr. Saab mentioned, it's been so many years. I really don't understand. So my question, being a layman, is maybe in the near future, do we see a time where this bacterium does not affect us anymore? Does it have something to do with our immunity? Can that happen, first of all? And secondly, you guys spoke about international commitment towards eradicating tuberculosis as well. Well, of course, it is a part of the SDGs by 2030, but there's also a mission for 2022. Can one of you shed the light on it?
So, going backwards from this question, Pakistan is a signatory of the UNHLM declaration, where there was a high-level meeting convened, and every country, all the member states, had certain targets for 2022. We almost need to reach 2.2 million people with tuberculosis till 2022.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we are in the last year, we have got our TB annual case notification 17% below what it was in 2019. Let alone our commitments and the targets.
That's a good news.
No,
right?
it's not a good news.
It's not a good news.
17% low in terms of.
So we have an incidence somewhere around 560,000 cases. If we are not finding any cases, they're staying there, spreading the disease further.
So there are more people who have TB. That's what you were saying. So I thought that we are probably coming down in the numbers.
No. So we were unable to actually reach out to 17%. We were able to reach to 17% less people as we did in 2019.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, that it might be because of the fact that people don't know that they have TB.
Exactly.
But that's the bad thing, right? Because they're still spreading.
So what should we do about it? I think let's hold our horses and let's all hold our thoughts as well, because we actually have to head out towards a short break. And once everybody's going to come back, I think we're going to talk about it, that that there might be a larger chunk of people who might have TB, but they are really not aware of it. And to add to that, I am actually going to share one of my own experiences, how people go to quacks and then waste a lot of money. And I have a personal experience, and I'm going to share it with you as well. That too after a short break, because we came across a person who claimed that he's actually going to do my friend's treatment of TB with needles, and what he did with needles is something I need to share with everybody. Please,
Stay tuned. Good morning. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to World This Morning, where today on the 24th of March, Shahzad Khan and I have pledged to learn more about tuberculosis, its prevalence in Pakistan, and, sort of share our information with you guys as well. But Shahzad, you had a story where a friend of yours met a quack. What happened? And you guys need to listen to this one, because it is a very common practice of Pakistanis going to see either quacks. Well, quacks here have different names. I don't want to get there because...
Yeah, so what happened was that, one of my friend, he was actually traveling from his village, and he came to me and he was like, hey, you know what, I've got hepatitis. I know that it's a little different from tuberculosis, but I couldn't remember when I actually told you that I'm going to share something with you. Right. So he had hepatitis, and he came to me, he was like that, I know this some person, and we need to go to his asthana. So I think pretty much everybody's going to understand what we're talking about over here, or we need to go to his place. So I took him to that place, it really didn't look very shady, but it was a little shady as well. And then there was this guy who said that, okay, I will read some Quranic verses and I'll do your treatment and you will be fine in 3 days. So it took like two big needles, and then he kind of started read something, and then was like choof, 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 and all of that. He did that, and then he put those 2 needles into a bowl of water, and then what he told was that, okay, you really need to sleep on a steel manja, or a steel bed for all of those English people out there, but we call it a manja, with bands on it as well. And he told my friend that you really need to put this ball right under your bed. After 2 or 3 days, the water is going to turn yellow. That means that your hepatitis has been sucked out of your body. And while I was sitting over there, I couldn't really think of or think out of the box the way that particular person was thinking. So I was like, okay, I don't know what's happening. But since the needles were rusty, so I told my friend that, hey, you know what, even if you're going to put them in water, the water is going to turn yellow.
Yeah.
He was like, no, you don't know, and all of that. And so he kind of slept on that bed for 3 days, with the ball right under his bed as well. And after 3 days it was yellow. And on the third day he woke up really excited. Oh, you know what, Shahzad, my hepatitis is gone and whatnot. So we had to go to that person again. So we went to that person. And he was like, see, now if the water is yellow, your hepatitis is gone. So you're like, okay, congratulations, thank you, whatnot. And then all of a sudden we were about to leave his place. He was like, hey, you know what, you really need to give me the hadiya. And we were like, hadiya? We don't think that there should be hadiya. He was like, okay, whatever you wish to give, you can give. So he took out 5,000 rupees, he was about to give. And then the guy goes like, nahi, 5,000 to bahut kam hai, 10,000 to bante hain. Tumhare hepatitis ka ilaj kiya hai. That 5,000 is very less. You actually have to give us 10,000 rupees because I have treated your hepatitis.
Imagine.
And so he gave him 10,000 rupees, but on our way back, I told my friend that we should get ourselves tested again. And guess what? We still had hepatitis.
Imagine that.
So please make sure that you don't do that. There are a lot of people who have been blessed with Allah Almighty's a lot of different blessings as well, and they can pray for you and wo dam kar sakte hain, and that you can heal as well. But these people are not very easy to find. They're not very common, ladies and gentlemen. So do not fall prey in the hands of people who are twats.
And this was really important to talk about as well, like we said, because it's awareness, right?
Yeah.
Just because you are going through something, Shahzad, that puts you in such a vulnerable position that sometimes you're so open to different ideas.
Exactly.
Even if you see an ad on TV saying Flana Flana Hakeem will treat Flana Flana thing, you do it because you feel like, okay, maybe this is my calling, right? Maybe this will fix it. So
And
Dr.
that's
Saab,
true.
let's talk about wrong interventions at the wrong time and how to well sort of cure TB without getting to the wrong parts of it.
Actually, we evolved over time, and now we are at quite an advanced stage. As Kinza was mentioning, there was a time when people went to hill stations or sanatoriums. That time is gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it may be interesting for you that the Quaid-e-Azam, he inaugurated the State Bank of Pakistan on the 1st of July, 1948.
Yeah.
After that, due to his complete privacy, nobody knew where he was.
That he had tuberculosis, right?
And on the 22nd of July, the Secretary General of the Cabinet Division, Chaudhry Muhammad Ali Saab, he called Colonel Laibaksh, who was a physician, and told him to report to Ziyarat.
Yeah.
He said, who's the patient? He said, the Quaid-e-Azam. So that was the level of progress we had made till then. But I must mention that even before chemotherapy, Europe had cured itself of tuberculosis by few simple habits.
Share those habits, sir, please.
I mean, you don't have to go for overcrowding. You have to eat clean things. You have to avoid infections of all sorts. So really, before chemotherapy came in, Europe had cured itself. Pakistan got the first consignment of streptomycin through Ambassador Isfahani for the Quaid-e-Azam.
Okay.
Somewhere in September.
So I'm just a little confused since you mentioned about chemotherapy.
Sure.
Is chemotherapy one of the treatments for tuberculosis as well?
By chemotherapy, I mean treatment.
So chemotherapy is actually a tuberculosis treatment as well.
Yes.
I never knew that. I thought that was only for cancer patients.
No, it's a general term. It's for all.
Okay.
So really, and the therapy used to be quite long. So I'll just call it therapy. The therapy used to be quite long, actually, 1.5 years. We brought it down to 6 months, from 8 months to 6 months. So it's highly curable, and it's easily diagnosable, like Shasa was telling you. All you have to do is take a portable camera, which will take your chest X-ray, link it with artificial intelligence.
Right.
In 30 seconds, it tells you what's the degree of
disease
disease.
or intensity.
And then you get a confirmatory test, and that's it. You
Okay.
know either way whether you have it or you don't.
Yeah.
So really, we have made a lot of advances. The thing is to get the advances to the public, to the people who need them most,
Right.
to the most inaccessible peripheral populations.
So just one simple question I need to
Please,
ask. Okay,
please.
so we truly get what you're trying to share with our audiences, and we hope that the audiences out there are understanding as well. God forbid that if via artificial intelligence we've figured out wrongly that somebody wasn't really having tuberculosis, but the artificial intelligence, one way or the other, I know that it must be very accurate, kind of diagnosed a person wrongly, and if he or she is on the treatment already, do you think that it can have other impact, God forbid, it can lead you to another disease because you really didn't have TB, you were on the course because, artificial intelligence kind of diagnosed you of that, and then you started the course. So are there going to be any repercussions of that course
I think the
on
question
somebody
No,
who
I
really
think-
didn't have TB?
I think you should not start treatment simply on that basis. That
Of course,
because
physicians
we have to follow the
advise.
national TB guidelines. It is not there.
सर ये
yet.
एक आम फहम सवाल है मेरा कि
बिल्कुल
अगर
बिल्कुल सही कहा
गलती हो जाए तो
बिल्कुल you're
For
absolutely right.
example-
So we do not start treatment.
Yeah, we cannot start treatment without any confirmatory tests, and then even after, if the person is not sputum producing, they're going for clinical diagnosis,
Okay.
of course. But yeah, without having the disease, like for example, if I am having the disease,
But khansi
people
hai.
at my home cannot start taking medicine. Or maybe if I'm having cough more than 2 weeks, I just sort of presume that I have TB and I start taking
Yeah, yeah,
medicines.
yeah. So
Like
that
it's
should
obviously it's antibiotics, and you're going to take antibiotics for 6 months, a combination of antibiotics. You cannot anyway start. And obviously, if you take medicine, any medicine, without having the disease, it all obviously will have side effects.
Yeah. Right,
But
right.
if you are, once you're diagnosed, you can take a regimen that has been defined in the national guidelines that is based on the international standards for 6 months for the drug sensitive TB and for about 9 months for the drug resistant TB.
Okay.
Because we also have a drug resistant strain, we also are getting certain cases of extreme drug resistance who are resistant to more than 3 or 4 this drug combinations.
Okay.
So we need to, there are other regimens that are applied for kind of treating those cases.
Okay, thank you so much for saying that, Ginza. And if we have time, we'll definitely get back to that. But moving on to Azhar Saab, I think one of the very important things we missed out on, where Dr. Saab said that Europe got rid of TB so long ago. So there must be, I mean, demographics must be a factor. Economy or probably lifestyle must be a factor. Is gender a factor? Is age a factor? Let us know everything, please.
I think gender doesn't affect it.
Okay,
Like
okay.
male, female, it doesn't matter. But nowadays, like there are some intervention which we called active TB finding,
Okay,
active case finding.
okay.
Usually people were supposed to come to the hospital for their checkup, but now in Pakistan we have a lot of interventions going on. We go to the people, to the key population,
Okay.
like coal miners, like transgenders, like these people which are living together in extreme conditions. Like,
Okay.
So,
So you categorize them as the key target population because of the conditions they live in. Okay,
yes,
that makes sense.
So
Okay.
there are some interventions going on.
Okay.
Like we are looking after. Like we have to go. We have to find TB,
Of course, it won't
and we have
find-
to treat them,
God forbid.
rather than waiting for the patient to come and check themselves.
Exactly, that's wonderful, and I think that should be the message with which we really need to wrap up the show as well. But sir, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much for joining us. It was wonderful to be in conversation, and that too on such an important day where we really need to step outside and find those people who might have TB.
Who might have
So I think it has a lot of confusion in itself as well. But best of luck to you guys as well. And I think you really need to. You really need to be praised for the kind of services you guys are providing to all of those people who belong to that segment of the society in the first place, and then really might not be able to kind of finance their treatments as well. So thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful to have you. And for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, we know that we really do not come across a lot of people, and it's just because of the medium of
Yeah.
communication. But for everybody who's out there who
It's
watch
your
our
duty.
show, because we know we are getting heard, alhamdulillah, the kind of feedback we get or the kind of clips we get back in our WhatsApp group, I think tells us that there are a lot of people watching us. It's your responsibility to kind of let everybody know. I think it's a collective and a shared responsibility which we really need to fulfill with 100% of our heart.
Absolutely, Shazad, thank you so much for saying that. And I feel like where the amazing panel of guests over here mentioned that there are so many, probably even millions of cases not reported. I feel like people who do have tuberculosis without being diagnosed, they might have a hint of what they have, but because of the stigma that we talked about, or because of the fear of what the treatment will be, or if they will come out safe of the treatment, if they will make it or not, I think there are just so many question marks with it that people are really scared to go get tested.
True.
It is totally all right. You will be definitely accepted in the society, and for all of those people who have to accept people with tuberculosis, be kind, be compassionate. I mean, really, it's not that dangerous anymore. It's 2021. They will get over it, but you have to get over it first. Be helpful.
Exactly.
One thing we really couldn't talk about because we're short on time is the pandemic, and I feel like people who already have tuberculosis and then contract COVID-19 as well, it's really hard for them as well. Maybe we'll have another segment about it to talk in detail. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, any feedback, or any suggestions even about this particular topic or any other, do let us know on our Facebook page with the name of
World This Morning.
On Twitter.
World This Morning without a G.
On YouTube.
On YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, you look for PTV World and then World This Morning. Alhamdulillah, the most viewed show on this platform.
Yes, and the repeat of this one you may catch at
5 past midnight. Till the next time, look after yourselves. 1, 2, 3. Good morning.
Take care.
Stay safe.
Second half of the 16th century, the slopes to move cannons and narrow loopholes for musketry are alterations of the time when Dogra Maharaja of Kashmir held his fort in the 19th century. Like other fortresses in Azad Kashmir, such as Mangla and Muzaffarabad, etc.,
Passion for polo will be the highest on the world's highest polo ground. Chandur invites visitors to experience a traditional polo tournament between the teams of Chitral and Gilgit. The tournament is held on Chandur Pass, the highest polo ground in the world, at 3,700 meters above sea level.
Entertainment industry we have. So please remember that it's very difficult to run a restaurant, to manage a restaurant and run a restaurant. So understand that and, help us out in this tough situation, Thank you so much.
And we will.
for
Thank you very
inviting.
much for
Thank
joining us. And for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, we're very short on time, so please make sure that you write to us on our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Please go ahead,
all
share
the social
address.
media pages with the name of Well This Morning, and then you can watch the repeat at 12:05 tonight. And till the next time, take care. Good morning.
Exactly. We have got some wonderful news anchors coming your way with the latest updates as well. Look
Yes.
after yourselves. 1, 2, 3. Good morning.
societies and states in the regional and global sense. The solution of global problems depends on joint efforts based on cooperation and effective multilateralism. The effective fight against rising hostility to Islam, racism, and hate speech also requires global cooperation.